Good morning, students. Today in this module, we will discuss the topic Civil Disobedience Movement and Gandhi-Irvin Pact. Before starting my topic, I would like to tell you about the UPSC history syllabus. It includes modern Indian history, significant events, personalities, and issues during the middle and 18th century till the present. Indian freedom struggle, the stages, important contributors and contributions from different parts of the country. And here, a special emphasis is there on Gandhian philosophy, the non-cooperation movement, and the civil disobedience movement, which is the topic of this present module. So I hope the topic would be fruitful for those who aspire to become a civil servant. Before starting my topic, let's understand the objectives of the topic. We had already discussed about the emergence of Mahatma Gandhi with this movement at Champaran, movement at Kheda and Ahmedabad. We had also discussed his agitation against Rowlatt Act, the Jallianwala Bagh massacre, the Khilafat movement. We had also discussed the non-cooperation movement and its impact on Indian freedom struggle. In the last module, we have discussed Simon Commission and Nehru Report. And in this module, we are going to conclude the lesson with the last topic of the chapter, the Gandhi-Irvin Pact and the civil disobedience movement with its impact on the Indian history. Let's understand the new words of the topic. Monopoly, exclusive control over the supply of something. When British entered India, they treated India as a market for raw material. Hence, they were having the special control over the supply of raw material from India to England. Gandhi-Irvin Pact, the agreement signed between Viceroy Lord Irwin and Mahatma Gandhi in 1931, when civil disobedience movement was going on and it was difficult for the British to end this movement. They offered Gandhi-Irvin Pact to Mahatma Gandhi in order to end the civil disobedience movement. And what was civil disobedience movement? The movement started by Mahatma Gandhi to defy all the government laws and not to pay tax on production of salt. Students, we all know that salt is a common thing to be used by every person, be it rich or poor. The British government had imposed taxes on production of salt. Mahatma Gandhi asked the people not to pay the tax and started an agitation, a protest against this, called as the Civil Disobedience Movement. The next term is HSRA. It stands for Hindustan Socialist Republican Association. This was a party to which Bhagat Singh and Chandrasekhar Azad belonged to. It wanted to bring socialism in India. It means it wanted to bring equality in India where the gap between rich and poor should not be there. Public Safety Bill. Public Safety Bill was passed in 1928, which was aimed at empowering the government to deport undesirable and subversive foreigners. Now by here, undesirable foreigners means those Indians who had served the British during the First World War in the European countries and who wanted to come to India but was creating problem for the British government. Trade Dispute Bill. The Act authorized the central and state governments to establish a board of conciliation or the court of inquiry to investigate into and settle industrial dispute. These tribunals were set up on ad hoc basis, that means on temporary basis. The Act prohibited strikes and lockouts in public utility services without prior notice. So basically, the Trade Dispute Bill was passed in order to curb the labor power, in order to see that the workers could not strike against the arbitrary policies of the British government. The next term is Communal Award, the system of separate electorate to the Muslims, Sikhs and Europeans given by the British Prime Minister Ramsay MacDonald in 1932. It was a device of the British government to divide the Indian people on the basis of communities. Pune Pact, the agreement signed between Mahatma Gandhi and the depressed class or the Harijan, the name which was given by Mahatma Gandhi to the lower caste, by which they rejected the separate electorate and favoured a joint electorate for elections in 1932. The same year when the British Prime Minister Ramsay MacDonald introduced the communal award and divided the communities on the basis of religion and asked that all different communities would have separate electorate. Mahatma Gandhi signed this agreement with B.R. Ambedkar as a representative of the repressed or the Harijan community to have a joint electorate with Hindus. The Second Round Table Conference. The meeting held in London between the Indian representatives and the British government in 1931. This meeting was held due to signing of the Gandhi-Irwin Pact, and as one of the conditions of the Gandhi-Irwin Pact, Mahatma Gandhi went to London to attend the Second Round Table Conference. This conference, however, was a failure due to uncompromising attitude of Mr. Jinnah. Mr. Jinnah wanted the separate electorate, whereas Mahatma Gandhi was firm on his decision of joint electorate. As there were differences between the two leaders, the Second Round Table Conference was not successful. And the last term is bicameral legislature, the legislature having two houses. Students, before independence, the two houses of Indian legislature were Provincial Council and the Legislative Assembly. These bicameral legislature, two houses, were the basis of modern day two houses of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Before going ahead with the present topic, the civil disobedience movement, let's recapitulate our previous topic. In the last module, we had discussed the arrival of Simon Commission in India to review the Montague-Chelmsford reforms of 1919 or the Government of India Act 1919. The commission was boycotted as no Indian was its member. Popularly, the Simon Commission was also called as the White Commission. The recommendations of Simon Commission were that the provincial diarchy should be ended. Diarchy, which means division of subject on the basis of their importance between the Indians and the British, should be ended. As, according to the diarchy, Indians were given the less important subjects like education and health of the Indians, whereas finance was under the British. So Indian demanded under Simon Commission that provincial autonomy should be ended forever. The other recommendation of this commission was that the representation of provinces and other areas were reconstituted on the basis of population. That means the number of MPs or MLAs in any legislature will be in equal proportion to the number of population of that particular region. And this is a criteria that the Government of India has adopted even after independence. The next recommendation was to provide dominion status for Burma. Burma would be given a dominion status. Here, dominion status, we mean a state which is internally free but externally is controlled by some other powerful country for its external affairs. People did not like the recommendations of Simon Commission, so Simon Commission was not supported by all sections of Indian society. After the failure of Simon Commission, a committee was formed under the presidency of Motilal Nehru, who gave historic Nehru Report, which became basis of the Government of India Act 1935. Essential features of Nehru Report. The Nehru Report demanded for dominion status from the British government. And dominion status, we have discussed in the last module also, means a country which is free from internal sphere, but for its foreign policies, it is dependent on some other powerful country. The Nehru Report also favoured bicameral legislature or two houses of legislature in India. According to the Nehru Report, the executive should be responsible to the legislature. And this is a feature, students, we can see in the politics of India even today. Our executive is responsible to legislature and it stay in the office as long as it enjoy majority in the legislature. The Nehru Report was strongly criticized by Muhammad Ali Jinnah and Muslim League. Jinnah did not accept the Nehru Report, and gave his own 14 points, which became the textbook of communal demands, because his demands were based on only to protect the interest of the Muslim community. Muslim League did not accept the Nehru Report. The Muslim League demanded one-third seats at centre and federation, with complete provincial autonomy. Muslim League wanted that the provinces or the states should be completely free, and they wanted that one-third of seats should be fixed for the Muslims at the centre level and at the provincial level. The Nehru Report was passed by Congress at its Calcutta session of 1928. But the young leaders of Congress like Subhash Chandra Bose and Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru were not in favor of dominion status. So they asked the government to give complete independence or Purna Swaraj. So there was a controversy within Congress. The wing of Mahatma Gandhi wanted only dominion status or half independence, whereas the young leaders like Subhash Chandra Bose and Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru wanted complete independence. They were not ready to accept the dominion status. So the young leaders in Lahore session of 1929, under the leadership of Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, the Congress adopted the slogan of complete independence or Purna Swaraj. So they said they did not want a dominion status as the British have given to the other colonies like New Zealand, Australia and Canada. Now they will strive for only complete independence, that British should leave India. Now let's discuss the topic of this module, the civil disobedience movement, in detail. We must understand the meaning of the civil disobedience movement in order to discuss the civil disobedience movement. Civil disobedience is the active, professed refusal of a citizen to obey certain laws, orders, or commands of a government. So, these are the special orders which citizens deny to accept. According to another view, disobedience has to be non-violent to be called as civil. In civil disobedience movement, violence is always denied because it starts with the name of civil disobedience. Civil means that the agitation has to be done in a very decent and sophisticated manner. Hence, civil disobedience is sometimes equated with peaceful protest or non-violent agitation. Mostly students think that non-cooperation movement and civil disobedience movements are similar. Let me tell you, there are some differences between these two movements. So let's understand the difference between the non-cooperation movement, which was the first ever movement of Mahatma Gandhi, and civil disobedience movement. The non-cooperation movement is based on denial of the cooperation to government institutions and boycott of foreign goods. Whereas the civil disobedience movement is based on violation of British laws. It doesn't stand for the boycott of the products. It stands for the boycott or violation of laws by the local civilians. During non-cooperation movement, Satyagraha was in nascent state. It was in its early stage. Whereas during civil disobedience movement, the Satyagraha was in a mature stage. People were now ready to adopt Satyagraha at large scale. During non-cooperation movement, Gandhiji resorted to simply use of Swadeshi, the goods which are made in our own country, the use of charkha and khadi in order to encourage the indigenous local goods. Whereas in civil disobedience movement, Mahatma Gandhi resorted to breaking of salt law by not giving the salt tax to the government. Now let's discuss the factors which led to the civil disobedience movement. The first factor was the social and political situation. The social unrest and political situation helped in launching the civil disobedience movement. The British government had imposed tax on production of salt. The peasants have to pay high land revenue. So the peasants and the common people were suffering from the cruel activities of the British government. Politically, the revolutionaries were active in India and they were being put behind the bar by the British government. There was condition of political anarchy in India as there was not a strong leadership. So, under this situation, Mahatma Gandhi thought to launch the civil disobedience movement. The second reason for launching civil disobedience movement was anti-Simon Commission. The Simon Commission, which was formed by the British government in 1927 to formalize the Constitution of India, included only its British member. The Indian National Congress and other political and social organizations rejected the commission and termed it as all-white commission since all its members were Europeans and there were no Indian member. The Indian demanded that at least 2 Indian members should be there in the commission, which was not accepted by the British government, as Indians were giving the logic that the problems in the 1919 reforms could be only sorted out by the Indians, so they rejected the Simon Commission. And this became the second reason for launching the civil disobedience movement. The British government did not accept the recommendations of Nehru Report. Nehru Report was formed under the leadership of Pandit Motilal Nehru. It recommended that India should be given dominion status. That means India should be internally free. It should only be dependent on British rule for foreign help and for external affairs. And Nehru Report also demanded that diarchy or the dual system where subjects were divided into reserve and transferred subjects and Indians were denied to control over finance should be ended. These recommendations were not accepted by the British government. So, Mahatma Gandhi started the civil disobedience movement in 1930. The next reason for launching the civil disobedience movement was that the peasant movement of Bardoli had succeeded. It inspired Gandhiji to start a national movement against the British rule. At Bardoli, the British had increased the land revenue and the peasants were striking against it and wanted to reduction in the land revenue. Mahatma Gandhi started a movement for reducing the land revenue and it was successful. The British had to reduce the land revenue at Bardoli. This also gave inspiration to Mahatma Gandhi that the people were ready for yet another movement in India. Gandhiji put forward few conditions before the British government. He placed 11 points of administrative reforms in different spheres of administration, including industries, agriculture, and local production of raw material. But the Viceroy did not accept any of them. Under these circumstances, Gandhiji had no option rather than starting the civil disobedience movement against the British rule. The major demands during the civil disobedience movement were that in the army, the reduction of expenditure should be there and it should be reduced by 50%. More and more Indians should be included as civil servants. The release of political prisoners should be there. By political prisoners, we mean to say those people who were considered as revolutionaries by the British government. The Indians also demanded the protection of Indian industries and reduce land revenue by 50%. Now let's discuss the program of the civil disobedience movement. The Indian demanded that salt law should be violated everywhere in defiance of the law. The British has imposed tax on production of salt, which was rejected by the Indian leaders and especially by Mahatma Gandhi. He was of view that no person should pay tax and this would be a defiance, a non-obedience of the British rules. Students should leave schools and colleges which were set up by the British and join the institutions which were set up by the Indians. Government servants should resign from their service as it would create problem for the British to run their administration without the help of Indians and they have to accept the demands of the Indians. Foreign goods should be banned and Indians should be asked to buy more and more local goods. No tax must be paid to the government. It started with non-paying of salt tax. Later on, civil disobedience movement also involved not to pay any sort of tax to the British government. Women should start dharna before shops having liquor. Even women should equally participate in the movement and start protest before the shops where the British were selling the liquor. Now let's discuss the progress of the civil disobedience movement. The civil disobedience movement started with Dandi March. Dandi was a village near the coastal region. Mahatma Gandhi started his journey from Sabarmati Ashram, his official residence, on 12th March 1930 and reached Dandi, a place near sea coast, on 6th April 1930. He made a fistful of salt from the sea water and broke the salt laws. From there, this movement spread to each and every nook and corner of the country. At many places, people defied the government laws. The civil disobedience movement was started against the salt law. Government has imposed tax on production of salt. Mahatma Gandhi started this movement from his house, Sabarmati Ashram, to a village, Dandi, where he himself broke the salt law by producing salt and asked the peasants and other people not to give the salt tax. People followed him and denied to pay this tax. Slowly and slowly, in the scope of the civil disobedience movement, the non-payment of all other taxes were also involved by Mahatma Gandhi, which people have followed as people had great trust on this great leader. The government resorted to the policy of suppression. In order to crush this movement, the British adopted repressive measures. Many people, along with Gandhiji, were put behind the bars, but it did not dampen the vigor of the people and the pace of the movement. Government resorted to violence, but it was creating problem for them. It was not possible for the government to put all the people behind the bar. Already, Mahatma Gandhi with his followers were behind the bar, but people were creating problem for the British government. It was difficult for the British government to put more and more people under the jails, as the jails were having also less space to occupy more people. As the policy of repression was not successful and people were creating problem for the British government, they adopted the policy of appeasement. A compromise was reached between Gandhiji and Viceroy Lord Irwin to sign Gandhi-Irwin Pact. According to this agreement, Gandhiji accepted to suspend the civil disobedience movement and to take part in second round table conference. And this second round table conference was to be held in London. In this way, the civil disobedience movement came to a halt for some time. For temporary being, the civil disobedience movement was ended as an agreement was signed between Mahatma Gandhi and Lord Irwin to suspend the civil disobedience movement. So let's discuss the historic Gandhi-Irwin Pact, which was signed on 5th March 1931 between Mahatma Gandhi and Lord Irwin. Before discussing the Gandhi-Irwin Pact, let me tell you that Gandhi-Irwin Pact is a very important part of history syllabus for IAS exams general studies. So if you are a civil servant aspirant, this is a subject you could take for your optional, as it is the scoring subject. Let's discuss the background of the Gandhi-Irwin Pact. Under the civil disobedience movement, Gandhiji put forward 11 demands and gave an ultimatum of January 31st, 1930 to accept or reject to the British government. All these 11 demands were related to reforms in the administration, in industries and in agriculture. In July 1930, the Viceroy Lord Irwin suggested a round-table conference and reiterated the goal for dominion status. On January 25, 1931, Gandhi and all other members of Congress Working Committee, that is CWC, were released from jail unconditionally. The CWC authorized Gandhi to initiate discussion with Viceroy Lord Irwin. Later, a pact was signed in Delhi, which came to be known as Delhi Pact or Gandhi-Irwin Pact. So, this was an offer put forward by Lord Irwin in order to suspend the civil disobedience movement. Some historians also believed that Mahatma Gandhi should not have signed the Gandhi-Irwin Pact as it was creating problem for the British government. The civil disobedience movement was a massive movement and British could not control it. So, by signing this pact, Mahatma Gandhi gave an opportunity to Lord Irwin to take hold of Indian national movement struggle. Gandhi-Irwin Pact is a name given to a political agreement concluded by Mahatma Gandhi and Lord Irwin, the then Viceroy of India, on 5th March 1931. And on your screen, you can see a letter which Mahatma Gandhi has written to Lord Irwin before signing the Gandhi-Irwin Pact, where Mahatma Gandhi expressed his anger with the British rule and the atrocious rule of the British Empire. Let's understand the background of the Gandhi-Irwin Pact. The Second Round Table Conference was to be held in 1931 in London. In 1930, the Salt Satyagraha, or the civil disobedience movement, was conducted and Gandhiji received worldwide attention. The British government in India was criticized for its unjust treatment of Indians. Gandhi and many other leaders were imprisoned along with thousands of Indians. So the main political leaders were put behind the bar by the British government and people were creating problem for the British Empire. So Lord Irwin wanted the issue to come to an end. So Gandhi was released from prison in 1931 January. Then the Congress President Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel authorized Mahatma Gandhi to hold talks with Lord Irwin. Accordingly, Gandhi met Irwin and held negotiations. It was for the first time that the two were meeting as equals. Irwin wanted to have compromise with Mahatma Gandhi as mass agitation of Mahatma Gandhi was not under control of Lord Irwin. At that time, the president of INC, or Indian National Congress, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, asked Mahatma Gandhi to hold talks with Lord Irwin. It was the first time that the two great leaders were meeting, representing their own sides. So, it was also called the meeting of two equals. In March 1930, Gandhi met with Viceroy Lord Irwin and signed an agreement known as Gandhi-Irwin Pact. The two main clauses of the pact entitled Congress participation in the Round Table Conference and cessation of civil disobedience movement. The government of India released all the Satyagrahi or the followers of Mahatma Gandhi from the prison. Now let's discuss the terms. As Mahatma Gandhi was not in jail and Lord Irwin was meeting a leader, a political leader of India, or INC, it was famously called as the meeting Second Round Table Conference, which was to be held in London. It was more demand of the Lord Irwin would stop the civil disobedience to have a deal. That was one of the biggest conditions put forward by Lord Irwin. Withdrawal of all ordinances that curb the activities of the Congress. Here, ordinances means the laws passed by the British government. So, Irwin promised that all those laws which had suppressed the activities of the Congress leader would be ended. Withdrawal of all prosecutions except those involving violent crime. This point, students, was a cause of contention. This point was the reason that Mahatma Gandhi was criticized by many political leaders. He signed an agreement where the one condition was put forward by Lord Irwin that he will release all those people who were in jail as Satyagrahi, but he would not release all those people who were in jail because of some violent crimes. And by this, Lord Irwin meant to say that he would not release the three revolutionaries Bhagat Singh, Rajguru and Sukhdev. It involved the release of only those who were arrested for taking part in the civil disobedience movement as common people and removal of salt tax. The reason why the civil disobedience movement was started to oppose the salt tax, that tax should be ended by the British government. So these were the promises done by Lord Irwin. Results of Gandhi-Irwin Pact. The INC or Indian National Congress participated in Second Round Table Conference, which was held in 1931 during September to December. As per promise, which Mahatma Gandhi made to Lord Irwin, he went to London to attend the Second Round Table Conference. The government agreed to withdraw all the ordinances and the laws which the government had passed to confiscate the property of the Satyagrahis. The government agreed to release all the political prisoners to save those who were involved in violence. The government agreed to release all political prisoners, but not those who were already involved in cases of crime like Bhagat Singh, Rajguru and Sukhdev and other revolutionaries. The British agreed to allow peaceful picketing of liquor and foreign clothes shops. Picketing means standing outside the shops where the British goods were selling, so that people could not buy the foreign goods. Lord Irwin even accepted this term of Mahatma Gandhi, that people would be allowed to do picketing in order to encourage the sale of the indigenous local goods. The ban, which was imposed on Indian National Congress during the civil disobedience movement, was to be ended. The government accepted to restore the confiscated properties of the Satyagrahis. It agreed to permit the collection of salt by people near the sea coast. It agreed to forego the fines not yet collected. It agreed to the lenient treatment of all government servants who had resigned from service in the wake of the civil disobedience movement. So, by Gandhi-Irwin Pact, government adopted a very lenient attitude. It made promise with Mahatma Gandhi that it would release the properties of all those Satyagrahis or the followers of Mahatma Gandhi whose property was annexed by the British government during the civil disobedience movement. It also said that people were having the right to collect the salt, and now salt tax was to be ended in India. The other fines, which not yet collected by the British government, were also resumed. The government also agreed that all those persons who had resigned from the government jobs as they have participated in the civil disobedience movement were allowed to take back their jobs and continue their jobs. So the Gandhi-Irwin Pact was signed in 1931. It was a political agreement signed between Mahatma Gandhi and Lord Irwin. It was also called as the name of the Delhi Pact, since it was signed in Delhi. Its important terms were that Congress had to withdraw the civil disobedience movement. Congress must take part in the Second Round Table Conference to be held in London. The government would release all those who were undergoing imprisonment for civil disobedience movement, and government would end the tax which was imposed on salt. Now let's discuss the failure of the Gandhi-Irwin Pact. Mahatma Gandhi was strongly criticized by many young leaders for signing the Gandhi-Irwin Pact. The left wing, which was ruled by Subhash Chandra Bose, questioned the justification of Gandhi-Irwin Pact because the government had not accepted the major national demands of the Indians. Gandhiji had not raised the important points, including the fate of Bhagat Singh, Rajguru, and Sukhdev. Subhash Chandra Bose said that the ball was in Mahatma Gandhi's court. He could have talked about the release of the revolutionaries. He could have been adamant that till the revolutionaries would not be released from jail, he would not suspend the civil disobedience movement. But he adopted a very lenient attitude, which provided an opportunity to Lord Irwin to control the national struggle of India. Now let's discuss who were these three revolutionaries. Bhagat Singh, Sukhdev, Rajguru were members of Hindustan Socialist Republican Association, which was led by Chandrasekhar Azad. Bhagat Singh, Azad and Rajguru assassinated Saunders, the British officer who had lathi-charged Lala Lajpat Rai. Bhagat Singh belonged to a party called HSRA. HSR stands for Hindustan Socialist Republican Association. This party wanted to bring a revolution in India. They were in favor of taking up weapons against the British rule in order to free India. And they also wanted to bring socialism in India. That means equality, economic equality amongst the Indians. This party's head was Chandrasekhar Azad. The members of this party, including Bhagat Singh, has killed Saunders, who was a police officer who ordered for lathi charge on Lala Lajpat Rai, an assertive leader, when he was protesting against the Simon Commission as it entered in India. Later, the members of the same party, HSRA, Bhagat Singh and B.K. Dutt, Butukeshwar Dutt, threw a bomb in the Central Legislative Assembly on April 8, 1929, protesting against the passage of two important bills, the Public Safety Bill and the Trade Dispute Bill. In the starting of the modules, in the new terms, I had already discussed with you both these terms. Once again, we will go through what does it mean. Public Safety Bill was a bill which was introduced by the British government in order to put an end to the immigration of those people who were coming from other countries and who were a threat for the Indians. On the name of this bill, the British government wanted to deny the entry of the Indians itself who had served them during the First World War and wanted to come back to India. The second bill was the Trade Dispute Bill. By this, the government wanted to control the activities of the labourers. They wanted to put an end to the strikes and lockouts, the fundamental right of the labour class. HSRA or Hindustan Socialist Republican Association was against the passing of these two bills. So Bhagat Singh and B.K. Dutt threw bomb in the Central Legislative Assembly. Both were arrested in the Assembly bomb case and Saunders murder case. Finally, Bhagat Singh, Sukhdev and Rajguru were sentenced to war. A request made for limiting the death sentence of these revolutionaries was turned down by the Viceroy, and they were executed on 23rd March 1931 in Lahore jail. The three revolutionaries were hanged on 23rd March 1931. That was the time when Mahatma Gandhi was in London attending the second round table conference, and he was facing severe criticism by the congressmen and even by the common public, because Mahatma Gandhi did not talk about the release of these three revolutionaries. Mahatma Gandhi was blamed for the outcome of the Gandhi-Irwin Pact and hanging of Bhagat Singh, Rajguru and Sukhdev. Differences of ideology led Mahatma Gandhi not to raise the issue of the release of the political prisoners, but for the country, for the common people, Bhagat Singh, Rajguru and Sukhdev were the heroes. They were the equal heroes as Mahatma Gandhi. The only difference was that they have adopted the different methods. For the hanging of their local hero in Amritsar, there was a huge protest. And Mahatma Gandhi was strongly criticized by the young Congress leaders, including Subhash Chandra Bose and Pandit Motilal Nehru. The Gandhian path was focused only on transfer of political power from the British to Indians. However, Bhagat Singh's vision was to transform independent India into a socialist society where there would be economic equality and the gap between rich and the poor should not be there. So Bhagat Singh was not only in favor of political freedom, he wanted socialist freedom also in India. Mahatma Gandhi was blamed by the young Congress leaders for not raising the issue of death sentence of the revolutionaries in Gandhi-Irwin Pact and in the Second Round Table Conference. The Marxists were of view that in the hanging of Bhagat Singh and his associates in March 1931, we lost an alternative socialist framework of governance for post-independence India. The British rulers were acutely aware of the socialist perspective of the revolutionaries. Justice Middleton, who transported Bhagat Singh and B.K. Dutt for life imprisonment in the Assembly bomb case, wrote his judgment. These persons used to enter the court with the cries of long live revolution, as they were inspired by the Marxist revolution and the Bolshevik revolution of Russia and long live proletariat. Proletariat stands for the labor class or the workers. So Bhagat Singh was believer that labor class or the worker class should be given due importance in the society. These people who used to come to the court with the cries of long live revolution and long live proletariat shows clearly what sort of political ideology they cherish. So, in order to put a check in propagating these ideas, Justice Middleton say, I transport them for life. So, by giving death punishment to Bhagat Singh, Rajguru and Sukhdev, British government did not end only 3 lives. Rather, they ended a new ideology to enter in India. The ideology of socialism, which stands for political, social, as well as economic equality. If Bhagat Singh would not have been hanged at that time, India would also have been adopted socialism at that period. As British were against the policy of socialism, so by ending these 3 revolutionaries, they tried to end a new ideology of socialism from India. When the 3 revolutionaries were hanged in India at the same time, second round table conference was going on in London. Now we'll discuss the terms and conditions of the second round table conference. The second round table conference proved to be a failure. As per Gandhi-Irvin Pact, Mahatma Gandhi went to London to attend the second round table conference. Apart from Mahatma Gandhi, the leaders of Muslim League, including their head Muhammad Ali Jinnah, were also present to represent the Muslim community. The members of Hindu Mahasabha and 6 members were also present to represent their respective communities. The second round table conference was a total failure as no decision was taken regarding the separate or joint electorate due to the uncompromising attitude of Mr. Jinnah. As per promise made by Mahatma Gandhi to Lord Irwin, he went to London to attend the second round table conference. The leaders of the different communities were present there to protect the interest of their community. But due to the adamant attitude of Muhammad Ali Jinnah, who was the leader of the Muslim League, no decision was taken in the second round table conference. The second round table conference was a total failure as no decision was taken regarding the separate or joint electorate due to the uncompromising attitude of Mr. Jinnah. Mahatma Gandhi wanted a joint electorate system in India, whereas Muhammad Ali Jinnah favored separate electorate system not only for Muslims but for other communities also. Due to the differences of opinion, the second round table conference could not take any steps in this direction. As Mahatma Gandhi was not successful in convincing Mr. Jinnah for joint electorate during the second round table conference, taking advantage of this, the British passed the Communal Award in 1932. Now let's discuss the Communal Award and Pune Pact of 1932. Passing of Communal Award. On 16th August 1932, the British Prime Minister Ramsay MacDonald announced his Communal Award accommodating separate electorate for Muslims, Sikhs, scheduled caste, here scheduled caste we mean to say the Harijans, and the European voters. It recommended double seats in the provincial legislature, to reserve 3% seats for women in all provincial legislatures except in Northwest Frontier Province. So passing of Communal Award was one of the strategy of the British Prime Minister to divide India on the basis of the communities, on the basis of the different religions. Not only Muslims, but other communities were also given the separate electorate. And by separate electorate, we mean to say that the people would elect the person of the same community in the elections. The Pune Pact. Gandhiji criticized the Communal Award as he was in favor of the joint electorates and made a compromise with B.R. Ambedkar, who was the leader of the Harijans community or the scheduled caste. When they signed a Pune Pact of 25th September 1932, by which they decided to have a joint electorate for Hindus and Harijans. Mahatma Gandhi did not accept the communal award of the British Prime Minister, and with Harijans or the lower caste, he signed a Pune Pact with their leader B.R. Ambedkar. By this, both Hindus and Harijans agreed that during the election time, the candidates would stand on the basis of the joint electorate. They would not divide their communities on the basis of caste and religion. Gandhiji attended the second roundtable conference in London, accompanied by Srimati Sarojini Naidu. At this conference, it was claimed by Mahatma Gandhi that Congress represented more than 85% of Indian population. Gandhiji's claim was not endorsed by the British and also by the Muslim representatives, and his idea of joint electorate was not listened by anyone. The Sikhs, the Muslims, and even the scheduled caste wanted the separate electorates. So due to the uncompromising attitude of Mr. Jinnah, the second roundtable conference proved to be a total failure. When Mahatma Gandhi returned from London to India, he was totally empty-handed. In India, he was criticized because of the hanging of the death punishment of Bhagat Singh, Rajguru and Sukhdev. And from roundtable conferences also, he got nothing. So he started to renew the civil disobedience movement, which was ended as one of the terms of Gandhi-Irwin Pact. So Mahatma Gandhi asked the people to start again the civil disobedience movement. Resumption of civil disobedience movement. On his return from London, Gandhiji saw repression was in full swing. All the important leaders were arrested, and revolutionary activities had also been intensified in Bengal, UP, and the frontier province. Here, by frontier province, we mean to say the present-day area of Pakistan which joins its boundary with Afghanistan. The new Viceroy, Lord Wellington, was not ready to take a liberal position. Gandhiji wanted to have a talk or interview with Lord Wellington, but he did not want to have a talk with Mahatma Gandhi. The government continued intense and systematic repression on the people. So Congress decided to renew the civil disobedience movement again, to once again start the civil disobedience movement. All Congress leaders were arrested. The government confiscated the properties of those who supported the civil disobedience movement. All those persons whose properties were confiscated in the initial years of the civil disobedience movement and later on released due to Gandhi-Irwin Pact. Again, their properties was to be confiscated or annexed by the British government. The fear that their property would be confiscated discouraged the middle class agitators, and they soon withdrew from the civil disobedience movement. Naturally, the movement lost its vigor and began to decline and collapsed long before it was officially discontinued in 1934. The Dalits or the untouchables did not participate in the civil disobedience movement because Congress did not give importance to their demands. Many Muslims also did not participate in this movement. They thought that Congress was moving close to Hindu Mahasabha. Communal riots occurred in many places. Disunity between Hindus and Muslims started, and industrial workers' participation was low. So, due to these reasons, the civil disobedience movement automatically died before even when it was officially ended by Mahatma Gandhi in 1934. Though this movement was ended, but it contributed a lot in the national struggle. Civil disobedience movement was the first struggle with Purna Swaraj or complete independence as its base. It was based on non-violent satyagraha. Gandhian ideas were widely followed. Women also participated in large numbers in this movement. It was a real mass movement. Different social groups participated in this movement. It was an open challenge to British rule. The people openly disavowed the laws passed by the British government. The importance of the civil disobedience movement. The movement clearly demonstrated that Indian people were ready to fight with the powerful British government under the leadership of Mahatma Gandhi. It was a mass movement where common people equally participated. It became difficult for the British government to control the movement. And due to this only, Lord Irwin was ready to sign an agreement with Mahatma Gandhi. Showed the power of the common people in India. A large number of American newsmen covered the salt satyagraha movement. The British were extremely sensitive about American opinion on India, particularly when the reports of Webb Miller received worldwide publicity in USA. During 1929 to 30, good number of Americans met Gandhiji and found him a real force in India. As England was held by America during the First World War, so England was very sensitive to the American opinion on its imperialism and colonialization. When Americans started to support Indians and started to review Mahatma Gandhi as a strong national leader in the Asian countries, the British government had to accept the demands of Mahatma Gandhi. Another importance of this movement was that this movement received massive response, the support of the common public from every sphere of the Indian society. It was the first time that the business groups or the Indian industrialists also took an active part in the civil disobedience movement. Collective pledges were taken by the merchants of Bombay, Calcutta and Amritsar not to import foreign goods and to encourage the sale of the local Indian products. Due to the civil disobedience movement, the popularity of Congress rose in India. It made Congress a mass organization, a party for the public and of the public. In the election of 1937, Congress got absolute majority in 5 out of 11 provinces. That means in 5 provinces, Congress made its government independently without the help of any other party. A near majority in Bombay and also became the single largest party in Bengal. So Congress emerged as a strong political party of India due to the successes of the civil disobedience movement. Children, in this module we have discussed these subtopics. We have discussed the meaning of the term civil disobedience in the beginning of the module. We had also discussed the reasons of launching the civil disobedience movement, the demands of the program of the movement, the progress of civil disobedience movement, that how this movement started from Sabarmati Ashram and reached till Dandi, a coastal village. We have discussed the Gandhi-Irwin Pact, a compromise done by Lord Irwin with Mahatma Gandhi to end the civil disobedience movement, and what were the reasons of the failure of the Gandhi-Irwin Pact. We have also discussed that how the 3 revolutionaries got the death punishment and they were put to death by the British authorities. The Second Round Table Conference, which was held in London in 1931. We had discussed the reason of failure of the Second Round Table Conference, that due to uncompromising attitude of Mr. Jinnah, the Second Round Table Conference proved to be a failure. Then we have discussed the law passed by the British Prime Minister Ramsay MacDonald, the Communal Award, which was aimed to divide the different communities and provided separate electorate. Against it, Pune Pact was signed between Mahatma Gandhi and Harijans. And then we have discussed how civil disobedience movement was again started by Mahatma Gandhi, importance of the civil disobedience movement in Indian history, and the reasons of its withdrawal. In this module, we have covered the following questions. Why was civil disobedience movement started? Discuss the program or the demands of the civil disobedience movement. Explain the terms of Gandhi-Irwin Pact. What were the causes of the failure of the Second Round Table Conference? Why was civil disobedience movement withdrawn by Gandhiji in 1934? and discuss the results of the civil disobedience movement. Since this topic was the end of the lesson given in your ISC Plus 1 history book, so I would conclude once again the objectives which we have covered in Gandhian philosophy. We have started this lesson with the emergence of Gandhi, his movement at Champaran, Kheda, Ahmedabad, agitation against Toilet Act, Jallianwala Bagh massacre, the Khilafat movement. We had discussed the non-cooperation movement and its impact, Simon Commission report, Nehru report, the Gandhi-Irwin Pact, and the civil disobedience movement and its impact. And that's what was the syllabus of ISC Plus 1 history of Gandhian philosophy. If you want to explore more, you can see a YouTube link on your screen which is related with the civil disobedience movement and the Gandhi-Irwin Pact. I hope this module has been useful for you. We'll meet you in next session. Till then, have a nice day.